there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learnt an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Being Human, Hidden Depths by Collaboration Global. My name is Jill Tiny, and I'm really pleased to say that today we have one of our long-standing members of Collaboration Global. We have David Liddle. Welcome.
Hi.
You're here with a lovely view behind you. Is this one of the stock photos or one of your lovely places that you visit?
No, I was down in Dover yesterday actually, picking some stuff up from a client, and I went and sat on the beach for an hour beforehand because I was really early, and watched the sun come up on the beach, which was lovely.
Oh,
it's really
perfect.
nice.
Yeah, especially yesterday when it was such a sunny day as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, chilly though.
Yes.
Nice though.
Well, the sun's shining now, so let's make the most of it. Hurrah. It's October day. So David, you've been a part of Collaboration Global for some years now, and I know it's morphed into an online organisation from the face-to-face that we used to have on a monthly basis. And I know one of the things that sticks in my mind that you used to say is, I love the meetings, Jill, but I really like going to the pub afterwards as well.
You bring it up at every opportunity. I missed the social aspect because there was a group of us who end up going to the pub every week, and it was a really nice thing. It was a really nice, just relaxed thing to do, and I miss that. And yes. It will come back. It will definitely come back.
Well, we've kind of taken it online because we have an online session for our members called Evolve, which sadly has not worked with your diary recently. But to me, that's our pub online where we've got a conversation that we can have. Because the conversations, I do remember we used to go to various different pubs and places, and you've got a glass in hand, even though it was a Tuesday evening that your group used to meet. The conversations that we'd started back at the meeting would then carry on in the pub, and it was this kind of unpacking of, so what do you think and how are you seeing it, and I don't know if I agree with that, I'm not really sure. And it's this beautiful relaxed space. So our Evolve sessions are now going to be on a Wednesday from now on, just for you. So we can carry that on, and the philosophy is you bring a glass of whatever you prefer, a cup of tea or glass of wine, and then we have an ongoing conversation. So the last one we spoke about that you did miss was the social dilemma around social media.
Seen that.
So let me ask you straight off, before we even get into who you are and what you're about, how au fait are you on social media, and what are your views on it, for instance, with your children? Do you let them have social media?
No, not the kids, because they're 8 and 3. Although they could probably use it better than most adults that I know.
Yeah.
So no, because they've both got tablet things that they play with and watch TV and stuff when we want them to sit in a car and be quiet or something. But I wouldn't give them open access to the internet. Not at that age.
No, absolutely.
It's not about what they're looking for. It's what might be presented to them. And at that age, no.
But also, and please do watch The Social Dilemma. It's also about how manipulative it is because of the...
Oh, it's massively manipulative in every way you can possibly... I mean, I see that on a daily basis with what people post, what people don't post. It's all massively skewed one way or another, and very much manipulative is probably the politest way to put a lot of what goes on there. So you've got to be just grown up about what's on there and take everything with a pinch of salt, I think.
And I think as well, it's a little and often, and not get... so for a classic example, which I've only just kind of sussed in my head today, I went onto YouTube earlier, and I'm getting all of these adverts about this guy that does needlework. I can't remember, Mr. Sewing or Mr. I don't know what his name is. And I'm like, that's weird, because I don't do needlework. I've never Googled how to make a bag or how to make this, or I just don't do it. My mum did it to death, so I kind of skipped a generation. And then I realised that I have been having a lot of conversations with Kay, and she is slightly obsessed with it. And she goes, "Look at the bag I just made. Look at this that I've just done." And it's just on a Zoom call, but I'm like, that's why I'm getting those, because they think that those conversations that I'm interested in. I'm
Yeah,
pleased for her.
It does things like Google searches. I mean, I bought some trainers, or a number of pairs of trainers recently, and everything you'll get these pictures of
Everywhere.
shoes come across the screen when you're doing something else. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, I understand it when you're doing a search, when you've done a Google search, I get that. But when it's just audio as well, they're listening to you as well as just whatever you type in, you know.
It's all smart. It's smart AI, isn't it? I mean, it's there's a huge amount of benefit there, I think, especially for people with disabilities and things. I mean, if you don't have the same accessibility as everybody else may do, or the ability to access, so people who don't want to touch a computer, if you can talk at something,
Yes,
it's
yes.
brilliant. But everything should be taken with a pinch of salt.
Indeed. And that's what was nice about the film. If you get a chance to watch it, I'm telling everybody to go and watch it, is that the guys that are talking have left all of the big social media, the Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of it, they've left, but they were very high up and they were chief this and, you know, chief that. And they said that in the beginning, it was all about helping people. It was all about making life easier for people. You know, the guy that invented the like button on Facebook, he was there and he's like, this was a good thing. You were approving. It was lovely. He said, now because AI, now AI's got involved, it just kind of, it's insidious and it's sinister. And that's what's quite worrying. But I think as long as people are aware of it and are awake to it, then, as you say, you can just pull yourself back and not let it ruin your life, because the suicide rate of teenage girls has gone up in the last 3 years, and it's like, well, what's caused that? You know, and there are permutations around, you know, being cyberbullied and all of those kind of things. It's horrific. Anyway, that's gone down slightly. Tell us, David, tell us a little bit about you, and what brought you to Collaboration Global be Collaboration in the past. What brought you to us, but also who are you?
It's a really odd question, that, isn't it? So professionally, when I say it's an odd question, it's I always find that really difficult, because I'm kind of different people in different circumstances, not in a slightly odd way. Professionally, I've always been a suit wearing financial services person. I think that has definitely toned down since I've grown. I say since I've grown up. That's an ongoing process, isn't it?
One day you'll grow up.
Yeah. But my preference, absolutely, definitely, is t-shirt and shorts and out doing practical stuff with the kids or the scouts, or out doing sports. I mean, that is without question. That's me. The work side of things kind of facilitates that. I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. But if I had my way, I'd be in t-shirt and shorts out in the outdoors every day of the week.
So is there a way you can combine being a mortgage consultant with being outdoors?
It's like, have meetings outside. This social listening is very good.
Oh, that's true.
It's different things, isn't it? One's a hobby. I have no aspirations to be a professional sports person or anything like that. I think I enjoy playing at it, quite frankly. You know, it's fun to go and do lots of different things. I enjoy the variety more than trying to specialize at one thing or another. I mean, I love the variety of getting out and doing different things, and it's good because you meet lots more people. I certainly don't take myself too seriously in any of that, and I actually enjoy it that way, because it doesn't need to be. You know, if you're going out in the outdoors to do lots of different things, it doesn't need to be taken seriously. You know, it doesn't need to be a case of if you don't achieve your goal of doing X, Y, Z, because that spoils it, doesn't it?
Yeah. I know some people like that drive, don't they? Some people have got that need to achieve. And I know a lot of you do badges and things as well in Scouts, don't you? It all bypassed me when I was a kid. But you can imagine that anyone's got a slight, obsessive compulsive. they want to get all the badges and get it going. But as you say, if you don't get any badges, it's just have fun. That's the whole point of being with people and hanging out and just learning new stuff that you've probably not experienced before.
Oh, it's don't get me wrong. I am quite competitive with stuff. So I got I did the London Classics 1 year, 3 years ago, and then did it again 2 years ago, and I've just got it again the third year. So that's the London Marathon and London Marathon, the Prue 100 cycle, and Swim Serpentine.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
having done it once, I wanted to do it twice, and then because lots of other people have done it twice, I wanted to do it
Uh,
3 times. And annoyingly, London Marathon haven't updated their current London Classics website, so I can't see how many other people have done it 3 times, which is annoying.
oh,
So I think I'll probably I'm going to do it again because I've got the events hopefully booked for next year. But I think I'll stop at 5. I don't think many people will do 5, so
no,
do
no.
5 lots.
Have you,
But things like that is just a bit of fun, and it's
is,
good to meet people in that environment because they're very very not positive in a fake positive. They're if you run the London Marathon, it's an absolute unique environment because there is nobody on that course who will encourage you to stop. Everybody will give you a pat on the back. They'll
yeah,
keep you happy. And it's the same in doing a lot of outdoor sports. People will encourage you and empower you to do things. And by definition, everybody achieves.
yeah,
And it's a very much pay it forward mentality and pay it forward environment because everybody helps everybody. There's no, if you go out to an event that's that big and nobody knows anybody,
mm,
but the commonality of the event and people take away a huge amount from that because it's just such an overwhelmingly positive environment. Silly things like having your name on your on a
yeah.
t-shirt and people shout your name. And to start with, it's really odd because you kind of forget that your name's there. And to begin with, it's just a bit odd. But then towards the end of it, when you get over the fact that there's people you've never met before shouting your name, and they're doing it for everybody, by the way,
Yeah.
it becomes a massive mental push. So things like that are good. Also, I think something as stupid as having your name on a t-shirt also breaks down boundaries because a lot of people would be too shy to actually go and say, hi, what's your name, who are you, where'd you come from?
Yeah,
Whereas if
yeah.
your name's plastered on your front, kind of there's
It's
no real
expected.
excuse to not know who you are.
Yeah,
um,
I love that thing that you've just highlighted, that it's a very positive environment and nobody is going to encourage you to not do it.
yeah,
Yeah, where in a business environment, quite often you go to someone for advice and you say, "I was thinking of doing this, this, and this," and they're like, "Oh no, I wouldn't do that if I were you." And you can
yeah,
almost feel that. And generally, you go to advice from the least likely people to give you good advice. You'd ask your mum, or you'd ask your your brother-in-law or someone, and somebody, maybe the milkman who has never run a business in his life. He's just delivering the milk, and yet they're going to be cautious for you. And where in reality, what you need is well, I think that's a great idea. How are you going to do it? Let's see what we
but
can do to bring you forward.
they're
And
being they're being cautious based on their experience or lack of experience.
yeah,
And at the same time, I mean, one of the most positive, one of the best courses that I've done was the coach approach, because it was very much about just knowing the difference between the different approaches. Is it a consultative approach? Just the different approaches, and actually, what are you actually there to achieve?
mm,
How much do you take on board? How much do you take ownership of what's going on in other people's lives, and how much do they take on effectively in a delegation way from you? Um, so I know it's good to do courses like I've completely forgotten where I was going with that, but
being
I think
encouraging, and we're talking about the sport being an encouraging space, and people
yeah, it's
aren't encouraging because they're cautious. Um,
yeah. So the first time I did the London Marathon, somebody actually said, "Don't do it."
really?
And my response to that was I booked everything that year. I booked loads of stuff. Basically, it was a 2 word response. Not I didn't obviously say that, but that was my
It's huge.
response.
Yeah, yeah,
And off the back of that, I've done loads of stuff.
yeah.
And it's such a wonderful thing to go and do. Okay, so long distance stuff is not everybody's cup of tea,
Hmm.
but to meet people who are doing 100 kilometers in one day,
Mm,
and they are so encouraging, but deeply encouraging. They'd give you anything they've got. If you need food or water off someone, which sounds like a stupid thing,
mm,
but they give you anything. And
yeah.
it's not because it's they're there for the experience of the event, and that's what you should do. And and you'll never see these people again probably, and you've never met them before. It's a bizarre. It's a very, very nice environment.
Yeah, I love that. And that's kind of what the essence of Collaboration Global is about, is that we're all human beings, we're all connected, and we should all be like that all the time, rather than just go, oh, you're running a race and I'm running a race, so we can help each other. I just want, oh, you're a human, I'm a human, let's help each other. It's kind of identifying the similarities and the passions that we have along the way will give us those commonalities that we can hinge together to support and help each other. And I know when my daughter ran the London Marathon, the atmosphere, we're in the pub afterwards, it was so noisy and everyone was so friendly and everyone's chatting to everyone. And it was just an amazing, because everyone's on this like a huge high from, having got there and achieved it. I was saying to my husband the other day that when the marathon first started 30 odd years ago, and somebody would say that they'd done the marathon, you'd go, oh, did you finish? And now it's like, what time did you do? It's interesting, isn't it? Oh, yeah, because an awful lot of people never finished. They gave up. They didn't have the mental attitude to kind of carry it on forward. Yeah. And now it's like, and what are you doing next? Where most people go, oh, no, I've done the marathon, that's my lot. They didn't consider anything else. And then my son-in-law, he does Ironman, he does triathlons, he's, cycles into work, runs into work, and it's miles, flipping miles. But that's a way of life now. It's just this whole ecosystem around, I've got to watch what I eat. I have to, when have I had my carbs and when have I done this, and it's just amazing. So it really resonates with me that being around positive people, as you say, and being around people that are encouraging you has such a hit on your integrity and your commitment to your life, whatever you are doing. So I wonder how many mortgage consultants, which is what you are fundamentally, although you do so many other things, but how many other mortgage consultants are going to have that kind of zest for life, and that can understand that a mortgage for some people is their dream because it's connected to the place they're going to call home. So tell us briefly how you got into the financial industry. Are you a bit of a maths whiz?
No, I did a biology degree.
That's really close.
No, I spent a year doing agrochemical pesticide research for AstraZeneca in Gellets Hill. So Gellets Hill is one of the. It was a good site. It was an amazing place to work for a year. It's a superb site. It's one of two global research sites that was at the time what it was. Wow. And they had student placements for a year, and it was just up the road from where my parents lived. It was brilliant, fantastic experience. But when you're sitting doing this every day with a pipette, literally got to the stage that your thumb didn't work.
Oh no.
And I wasn't cut out for lab work, unfortunately. My way of doing things is I look for stuff to solve. I'm a problem solver. Yeah. And you give me stuff to solve, I'll solve it. And it just didn't work. I got some things done incredibly quickly that they didn't like. So silly things like I had to clean out literally 1,000 Teflon test tubes.
Oh, yeah.
So I rigged up a drill with a brush on the end of it and turned the drill on beside the sink. Not the best place to do that. And we just basically sit and stick the tubes onto the brush, and got through them really, really quickly, but obviously a little bit dangerous.
Don't do this at home, folks.
Yeah, things like that didn't go down too well, but it was a really, really good experience. Decided I would never do that again. And then, but again, a very valuable experience because it taught me I didn't want to work in a lab.
Yeah.
Which if you have a biology degree, that's kind of one of the ones you go to.
Yeah.
So then accidentally ended up with a financial services company and kind of got in through there. Ended up doing mortgages after a period of time because that's where the market kind of went, and been there ever since. It's obviously a lot more specialized than it was in the past.
Yeah.
But it's kind of worked. Oddly or interestingly, we still have a lot of clients from kind of 15, 20 years ago, which is really, really funny to see all the different life journeys that we've been part of over the years. That's nice.
Yeah.
And the nature of the conversations nowadays is very, very different to how it was before. It's not in any way salesy. It's a lot more supportive. It
Mm,
goes back to the coach approach. We've been, before the coach approach had a name for it, we've been working that in that way for years.
mm.
I just think we didn't necessarily know we were doing that.
Yes, it felt right to you, didn't it? So
Yeah,
explain what that approach is for you with your company.
it's still very process driven because we work in a regulated environment and have set things that we need to do.
Mm,
But it's relationships. The majority of our business comes in from word of mouth. We obviously have the social media and stuff because we have to, and
mm,
you have to have a shop front to an extent. But the majority of the business comes in through word of mouth and repeat, which is so much better because you're not having all the silly conversations that you need to have to understand what's going on, and it's just a lot more personable.
mm.
And that it just makes everything so much easier for everybody, and so much nicer.
Yeah.
It always makes me laugh when clients ring up and say, "Oh, do you remember me?" So, of course, I remember you. I mean,
Oh.
we've got lots of clients, but we haven't got that many that we wouldn't remember somebody.
Mm.
I mean, obviously, you remember when things go really, really well, and you also remember when things go badly because inevitably, what some people try to do doesn't necessarily work out in the best way.
Mm.
Um, but it's really. I always find it really strange when someone remember. Also, I always save people's numbers in my phone, so I know who's calling.
Right, that helps.
Um, well, it's also nicer if you answer the phone. You know how you can answer the phone differently depending on who you're speaking to, potentially. Or
Yeah.
there may be some people who, so for example, we had one client who was massively auditory. And just you couldn't have a conversation with the guy anywhere where it was remotely noisy. So even if there was a slight crosswind and you're having a conversation, don't even try because he got really
Wow.
frustrated and actually
Yeah.
very angry really quickly.
Oh gosh.
And it took me a while. I thought he was quite grumpy to start with, but it wasn't. He was just his entire focus was auditory. And if you
Mm.
ever watched him on a Zoom call, he'd have his head down and he was really, all of his senses were in that one ear.
Yeah.
Um, and that, we've just got to meet him where he wants to be met. There's no point in, if you met his energy level the same that was coming in this direction, you just bang heads.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a grumpy, angry man. It was just, he was massively auditory. And if he couldn't hear, in the same way that I like to see a face on the screen, I like to
Mm.
see the features. I can see you've got glasses on, you put lipstick on this morning, and you've made an effort. You made an
Just
effort
for
to get
you,
dressed.
yeah.
And you're not in your jammies, and it makes a difference that you can
Yeah.
actually see people. And I think that I like to be able to see and hear people.
Mm.
But that's some people are very specifically one
I
way.
agree. I agree. So, from your perspective, has business changed that much because you don't get the face to face? Because I would imagine a lot of your consultations would have been, sitting down at a desk or somewhere, having a chat with someone, and now it's all online. Do you feel that there's a little bit of a barrier, or you've just gone, well, no, it's online, we carry on?
For the clients that we know and have known for years, no difference at all, really, because you've got
Yeah.
that connection already. For newer clients, I don't think they get the same depth of connection because you can't see who you're talking to.
Mm.
I mean, there's a couple of people I've met recently or seen after 6 months. You're like, I was on a Zoom call with somebody who I didn't even recognize,
Oh,
and
wow.
I didn't because I've never seen them.
Yeah.
And because they hadn't put their name up on the screen, and they
Yeah.
mentioned afterwards, and I just didn't even realize because I don't know what they look like, and it was a different. We weren't talking. It was an NLP call, and I didn't. I mean, I had no reason to know who they were, and it was awkward because when she flagged it up, it was like, oh, okay, I should have known that, but unless there was nothing there to identify her as part of that call.
So that
Zoom's it's a hard one, isn't it?
I was going. Yeah, it is. It's an adjustment that we all have to make, I think, along the way. And I agree with you. It's not easy. And when people don't put their camera on, if it's a Zoom meeting, and
I
it might
hate
be
it.
a perfectly legitimate reason not to have their camera on, but there's a part of me that's like, well, are they even listening? I'm talking,
Yeah,
but are
exactly.
they even around? So it's being aware that you are being heard. So
Yeah.
the power of listening is a big thing. You just mentioned NLP, which some people listening to this podcast might go, what now? What's NLP? But also, I'm really intrigued by how you and Gavin, your business partner, got on that road to NLP, because it is now quite a big part of your business as well, isn't it?
It's more about the communication. For me, it's all about communication. It's about communicating and meeting people in a place where they need or want to be met, because we haven't all been on the same journey. And I think that there's so many people out there calling themselves coaches and NLP practitioners and God knows what else. But my experience is there's very few people who actually put it into practice themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So I don't think it matters which business field you're in. I think it's incredibly important that you use the skills that you were given to make that process easier for you both.
Yeah.
Now, is that the way that you're explaining it? Is that the way they're receiving it? We started off actually by going to do a Tony Robbins course,
Unleash the
which
power.
was I'm sure that year Gina was doing support.
Right.
That year.
Small world.
And it was really weird because beforehand, I remember we had this long conversation. It's like 700 quid for.
Yeah.
You really want to spend 700 quid for like 3 days plus hotel bills and all the other stuff and lunch and everything, and it was a fantastic experience. I've got to say, I've always been financial services has always been a bit rah anyway, and I do love all. I love all that. I love all the recognition and the all those events, because it's another really positive environment.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a bit of fun, you know. So Tony Robbins, the 3 days was amazing. As a first, to go back now, I think we'd have a very different experience.
Yeah.
I was reading through the course material the other day, and it's a very different thing to where we are now. We'd have a different approach to it if we were to do it again. I'd still like to go back and do it again, because I think you'd walk away with a different message.
Yeah, I think what we've always said at Coglow as well, isn't it, is you might have heard something before, and you might in your mind be saying, I know that, yeah, it's not new information. But if you actually sit and listen and think about the context of it, and the context within your life that you're leading at the moment, there is always something you can take from the information, even if you've heard it before, that will embed into you. So I generally say to people, if you hear something, you'll retain it for an hour, 2 hours. If you hear it and write it down, you maybe retain it for 4 hours or 6 hours. If you retain it and write it down and then tell someone else about it and teach them what you've learned, that's it, you're consolidated, and that will stay with you for much, much longer, if not for life.
Yeah, so I agree.
I agree. Going back to do the course again is, although it feels like a bit of a luxury because I've already done it, I tick that box. I did a Tony Robbins, you know.
Yeah,
but to go back again, I think you'd go, oh, I get so much more now, because you're going in with that much more knowledge and that much more experience.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's I mean, for anybody else who's been there and done that course, you'd have had a very similar experience. The energy level is amazing. And what's odd is that it's maintained from 8 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, the whole time without a break. And I've never experienced another environment like anywhere. It was kind of the energy of a really loud club. I hadn't been clubbing for a while, obviously. But it was kind of the high energy of that, but sustained without booze or anything like that, and it's just weird. Just
can be done.
It can be, and for 3 days, amazing. Slept well afterwards, but it was good.
I bet you're shattered. Yeah, I can't imagine that. That's yeah, I've never done it. Maybe I shall try that one. So basically, you went to UPW or Tony Robbins, and then you got on the personal development bandwagon, for want of a better expression, and then you came across neuro-linguistic programming and thought, hang on, let's just utilize this as a tool, I guess, in order to connect more deeply with your clients and your prospects and the people around you. I've only ever done a small bit of NLP, had a few courses here and there. I've not done. Are you a master practitioner, or you've gone up the levels? Yeah, so that takes a bit of commitment again, isn't it? So were you going up the levels so you could get a little badge to sew on your shirt?
No. Do you know what? If you get a little badge each step of the way, they add up, and it's quite nice.
Yeah.
I've only actually ever really been doing it to kind of grow and develop. and to improve the communication. And the communication with our clients now is so much better. I
Good.
mean, it's so much better.
Yeah.
There's also the element that we've kind of grown up along the way. I mean, that makes a big difference. I'm not where I was when I was 25.
Mm,
So that is a hugely positive thing. But it's
mm.
the difference it makes in everything. We don't have argumentative conversations anymore. We generally don't have stressy conversations
Lovely.
on a daily basis. Certainly not with clients.
Mm,
And it makes a big difference. It makes a massive difference
yeah.
to the experience that everybody walks away with.
Well, one of the things I usually say, which many people have heard me say before at our meetings, is that if you're not connected to who you are and understand yourself, how are you going to be able to connect to other people? And I think when you've
Yeah.
done an element of personal development, then that means that you've got you understand how to listen properly, you understand how to connect to others, but you know what your triggers are, you know what your limiting beliefs are. Obviously not all of them, because they're ongoing all the time, but you've done a lot of the housework, you've done a lot of donkey work to get the old ones out the way, and you realize that, oh, that's why I do that. Oh, I didn't know that. And once you've kind of got that rubbish and that housekeeping done, then when you want to go and collaborate with someone who may be a total stranger, but you're on the same mission and you've got the same passion and you want to achieve the same thing, providing they've done the same sort of work that you have, as you say, the harmony is going to be out there, and you can create that magic, and you can bring that third person in or the fourth person, and you know how to collaborate. And there will be disagreements in anything, in any business, in any industry, in any collaboration. There are going to be disagreements. And if you've done the groundwork and you've done the housework on yourself, then they are not the end of the story. A disagreement doesn't bring everything to a halt, and you think, oh, well, that was a waste of 6 months. I can't carry on there because he said that and she said that, and you don't go down that route. You become, as we say, it's a grown-up conversation. So you can go to someone and say, what you said actually triggered me then, and I felt quite hurt. And it isn't what you said per se, but I found that it was something that hurt inside me. So one, I want you to know that it triggered me, and two, I probably need some help to understand why I was triggered behind it. And you kind of unpack stuff, and then it's the realization that people don't actually want to offend you or upset you most of the time. They're standing their ground because they feel threatened or out of control, or so they respond in a way that they've always done that seems to work. And then when you're in a grown-up conversation, you realize that's not going to work anymore. So you've got to find a better way to communicate more effectively. And the illustration you gave about that chap that you thought was just grumpy, and actually it's because that was how he learned, how he understood
He was
things.
just auditory, and he was entirely focused, and it was one ear as well. It was.
Well, he might have been a little bit deaf in the other ear. So
maybe.
Yeah, and it's just once you accepted that, you'd never thought, you didn't come across and go, well, he's still grumpy. You were like, oh no, that's his thing. So the pressure was gone and the stress was gone from the interaction with you. So it's just, that is how I see. Can you imagine? Just picture it. If politicians were able to be respectful of each other and listen and go, I hadn't thought about that, or do you know what? I can see what you mean now. I get what you're saying. That's really interesting. Maybe we could change it so, rather than, well, we're right and this is what we're doing. And I get they have to make a stance on, somebody's got to make a decision, but it's the society that we're in. Someone says one thing and everyone points the finger of blame. Yeah. And there's always going to be someone with a different opinion. There's always going to be and there is no right or wrong. It's just, this is what we think is the best way to get through this at the moment. And some people are doing it because it's like an opportunity to get more money. Who can say HS2, there were millions already spent, and that's gone to line some people's pockets. It must have been. It's human nature. But at the same time, some people are doing that in earnest, that they believe it's a good thing for the country. So it's kind of coming together to do the right thing. And what is the right thing? And it's just the best for the people involved. So let's flip it back just briefly. What attracted you to our community when you first came along, and why are you still here?
I was trying to think about that actually earlier on as to who it was introduced me. It was definitely out the Essex networking side of things.
Was it Gavin though? Not Gavin?
I'm not sure. I can't remember. Anyway, I mean, we actually consciously made a decision that we'd try and not go to the same networking groups, because I think that's pretty sensible. And it's just to be fair, I think it definitely took me a while to get to know some people there, and the group's changed massively since then. There was I think to start with it was a bit, what are these people all about?
A lot of people say that, yeah.
It is about relationship, isn't it? And saying that the people in the community, as it were, there's such a diverse group.
Yeah.
And I've got in my head some of the conversations that have been had in the pub afterwards that would be inappropriate to repeat now, but some of the conversations that have been had, I would never in a million years have had those conversations openly, honestly, with people who were really there. And who, as in, sat there genuinely. I've never had one argumentative. That's actually wrong. I've rarely had an argumentative word with anybody within the community, and that's a nice thing. It's a nice thing. I think generally the people kind of act and the way they're meant to, which is a good thing. I think the attitude to openly trying to collaborate with different things is brilliant, and everybody genuinely does try and help, which is a great thing. If we could get that, if you could get the understanding of collaboration out into the bigger world, it'd be bloody brilliant. I mean, I still cannot get my head around why more people don't want to collaborate. We regularly find new potential partners or relationships in business, and if you say I want to collaborate, people just don't get it.
Yeah.
And I just can't get my head around, because it makes so much sense to do something that benefits you both in a way that is calm, nice, that should work.
Fun, and you enjoy it, and you're sharing your experience with people.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the reasons that I find people don't want to do it is they've been burned in the past. Someone took a load of money off of me, or somebody stole my IP, and it's like, wow, it shouldn't be like that. And I am known as a cockeyed optimist, that I always think everyone's going to do the right thing and be nice and kind to each other. But what?
We're not. But
the majority of people are like that. And it's the minority that are going to steal stuff, and they're coming from a place of fear, and they're coming from a place of scarcity. So they're in it for what they can get out of it. And that is very short-sighted for, as you say, building relationships in the long term. So somebody does a collaboration, it doesn't go well. What they're going to say, they're going to tell all their friends, oh, don't work with him because he did this to me. And in the end, they're going to be stunted in what they can do and the potential. But if you have a collaboration that goes really well, then everyone in that collaboration tells everyone else about it. And you go, let's do another one and another one and another one. And you've got more and more people that you can share with in that way. That what I love is that you can get something extra out of it that you don't necessarily see coming along as well. So
absolutely. And it makes it easier. It's easier to make a relationship work than it is to go and find another one.
Oh, damn right. Yeah.
But why don't people have the honest conversation? Sorry, not honest or dishonest. That's the wrong thing to say. Why don't they have the uncomfortable conversations, isn't it? And just, if someone drops the ball on something, I've dropped the ball on something. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
We're all human, especially this year. I mean, this year has been, a shambles. And let's not go into that, because that's a whole other conversation. But this year has been a really good example of something that's actually made a lot of relationships stronger, because I think people have been forced to be a lot more open and genuine with each other.
Yeah.
It's not an honesty thing at all. Because it's not. It's just about people being comfortable enough to say, we're all in the same boat. Let's get on with it. What can we do to help you?
Yeah, and I think as well that because of what's gone on this year, 2020, is people are a bit more vulnerable and allowing themselves to be a bit more vulnerable and asking for help and saying that I've had a tough time and I need this. And they're not coming from a point of view of poor me. It's just, this is how it is. And then when you've got a supportive community, people can see what they can do. And if everyone does a little bit, then, it makes life so much easier.
Makes a massive difference.
So the other side of you, David, that I absolutely love is during lockdown, you posted some stuff online that you were doing with your children to keep them amused. Because like most of us, not me included, but a lot of people out there were doing homeschooling. So you were trying
Yeah.
to entertain a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Actually, to keep me amused.
But it kept me amused reading about it. I absolutely loved it. And I think I put on one of your posts, it's like, I want you to be my dad, because it looked like such a brilliant time to be a kid and such a brilliant dad to have to take. So give us some ideas of what you did in order to educate your children.
I was actually explaining some of the things this to Ben earlier on. We live in a split level split front to back. So we've got ladders into the roof space both ends. So I put the ladders over the holes and ran a rope from the top to the bottom. So we had a zip wire in the house. That was good fun. It looked more dangerous than it was. It was completely safe.
Okay.
It was. It was. We did climbing. We did camping. We did cooking on a variety of different things on the floor. We've done loads of stuff. We've had hammocks strung up from the roof. We did loads of stuff. It was just good. It was just good fun using the stuff that we have kicking around.
What I like is you took the classroom, which is like, a book, and there's a textbook, and then do this exercise, do that exercise, but you just made everything physical. It was like they were learning loads, but from a doing it perspective, which I think most children, that's how they absorb information. They do it as a kinesthetic.
They enjoyed it. I mean, Saffron can string up a hammock in about 20 minutes easily.
Wow.
And how many 8-year-olds can do that? I'm very practical with things like that, and I want my kids to have. It's the same conversation I had with Ben early on. I want my kids to have an experience. I want them to experience good things. I want them to experience bad things. I want them to cook on a stove and burn themselves so they know what not to do, not badly, but know what to do. I want them to know how sharp a knife is. I want them to be able to do practical things when they get caught out, and the only way they're going to learn is to do these things. I want them to not worry about going out in the rain because they might get wet. It's like, don't do it,
Yeah. We do mollycoddle our kids, don't we?
To the point of stupidity, our kids have been dumbed down generally when it comes to practical skills. In some ways, they're massive. I mean, kids are the fact that both of my kids can. I don't actually know how they know the passwords to my phone and my iPad and things, but the fact that they can navigate all the electronic controls just intuitively is amazing.
Yeah.
But at the same, and I think the majority of kids are like that. But other than that, kids really have been dumbed down when it comes to practical skills, and being able to look after themselves properly. And this will come to roost when they're older, when they get sent off to things like university or when they move out.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredibly important to just tool kids for the future. They need the skills. They need to know how to do these things. And the only way they're going to learn is if someone actually teaches them. And they need to experience things.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you. It's a different generation, but when I was a kid, my mum would be teaching us, this is how you do the washing, and so get your dolls and get all their clothes, and we'll wash the dolls' clothes so we know how to do it. And obviously we didn't have a washing machine in those days, so it literally was on the scrubbing board. But everything I had to, it was my job to iron the hankies. So we all had, nobody had tissues, no paper hankies. It was all, so it was my job to yeah, so we had to iron all the hankies, and there were all jobs that we had to do, clearing out the grate, all those kind of things. And you look back, and when people say, oh, how do I do the ironing, I'm like, oh my goodness. And my friend spent many years until I told her off, going, oh no, I can't cook. I'm like, can you read? Yes, I can read. Well, then you can cook, you just don't want to. Then that was your excuse. And it just, when our girls were, once I went to senior school, I'm not doing your ironing anymore, you do your own. Then once they were 16, it was like, no, I think you can do your own washing, and what day of the week do you want to cook dinner for everybody? And they had the specialities. When they were 5, they went to school, and they used to come home and go, Mum, we've got a school fete, we need cakes. I went, oh, okay, we've got to supply the cake, so we make some cakes. So you're learning, Next time, Christmas bazaar, we've got to make some cakes. Well, you did it last time, so off you go. And the kitchen was blitzed, like a 5 or 6-year-old making cakes was, but they knew what they they were doing, right? And I didn't have to do it anymore. So I knew mums that were like, their kids were 11 and 12, like, oh, I've got to make cakes for the bazaar. I'm like, get the kids to do it. What do you mean do it?
I agree completely.
And they used to
Once you
love it.
get over the fact that you've got no control as to the mess.
Yeah. And it's just
then,
mess, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like feeding themselves. they did that.
Yeah.
We had the wall was just a mess where behind the high chair. So we every time they made a picture, I just put it on the wall over the mess. We'll decorate later. When they've grown out of throwing the food around, then we'll decorate. That's fine.
Good for them.
It was exactly. And yet I had another friend who would have their child in the high chair and every mouthful was given to them and then their face was wiped. And it's like, well, how are they going to play? They've got to... They'll
never learn. Get them. Let them.
Yeah,
get them to get on with it.
It's a different world, I think, but a world that is balancing it up, isn't it, between what was the good in our life, because we had bad things in our life, but the good stuff of our life and the technology, the good stuff of technology, and kind of marrying them together. So that
it's a useful application of the good technology, though, isn't it? It's the taking the stuff that, I mean, there's the educational aspects of technology are amazing. I mean, it is fantastic. If you look at the films and I was watching a David Attenborough thing yesterday. Just the quality of things that they can see now. It's just so much better. Yeah. And they'll learn from that, and there's a lot that they will learn that will be streets ahead of where we were when we were young. But I think the big thing that kids are missing is the practical stuff.
Yeah,
it's how do you do this if?
Yeah,
you know, it's can you change a car tire? You know, we were taught that you're not allowed to have a car unless you can change a tire.
Yeah, can't pick the tire up now; they're so heavy.
Well, yeah, but if you know, I've worked with people. I won't mention any names. Who've waited for 3 hours to get the AA to come round and change a tire. And it's just like, do it yourself. Take you 20 minutes.
Well, when I was a teacher, one of my friends taught year 5. So what's that? 9, 10-year-olds, and that was one of their lessons. It was, come on, I'm going to go and change my wheel on my car. So the whole class would go out there and he would teach them how to do it. So there was no way. But also while he was doing that, he taught them about pi. He taught them, about science was brought into it, and it was everything that was part of it. And then a couple of days later, he'd be teaching them how to do what was his classic? A toffee cheesecake. Oh, banoffee pie. That's what he used to love doing, banoffee pie. Nice. He was the favourite teacher, because he taught them so many different areas, but it was practical stuff as well. And yeah.
That's what kids need.
I remember, I've got to tell you this story, when I was teaching many years ago, it was in the classroom and all the curriculum was literature first, then maths. The whole school was doing that. And it got to, we're in the middle of a maths lesson and kids are like distracted and looking out the window. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Snowing. And I'm like, okay. Coats on, kids, we're outside, it's snowing, let's do a science lesson. So we went out there and we made snowmen, and it was coming down, and I'm like, where's everybody else? Why aren't the others coming out? Because it doesn't really snow that often. Anyway, when we finished, we had done freezing and melting and crystals and you name it, anything to do with snow, we'd done it, and we'd measured it and everything. So it was a science lesson. We took it into poetry, we took it in everything. And by the end of the day, the head said to me, "Could I have a word?" And I went in there. She said, "What were you doing out when everyone was there for maths?" I mean, but it was snowing. She said, "But it was supposed to be maths." I'm like, but nobody else was out there. I said, well, that's their problem. Because if they can't make a lesson up off the top of their head, then, these kids are missing out. And so my kids were like, everyone was jealous of them because they got to go out and play. But it wasn't play. It was.
But they'd walk away with a message that they'll remember forever. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because off the back of an experience.
Mm. So your kids are very lucky to have you as a dad, I think. Long may it continue.
I want to get them into more adventurous sports.
Oh, are you an extreme sport fan?
I'd just like to I'd actually like them to get to a stage where they can do sports that I want to do. And we can go and do it together without having to hold their hands. So we've got a bit of time to go yet. Yeah. But they're getting there. They're getting there. They're fairly adventurous in their own right. And they're keen to. I took them climbing. It's interesting. I took them climbing for Saffron's birthday on Saturday to clip and climb.
Mm.
And it was really odd. The kids, most of the kids there were really, they weren't as kind of outgoing.
Robust.
There wasn't the people who are doing the instruction there. I don't want to be just impolite to anybody there, but they weren't all being encouraged to go for the top
Yeah. They
in
were
the
being
same way.
careful. Yeah.
It was run as a compliance exercise very much, and yeah, safe and sensible, and that's great because no one's going to get
Yes.
hurt. But
Yeah.
at the same time, get to the top. That's what you're
Yeah.
there for.
We took our goddaughter to one of those, and you could see she was nervous, but she was, I'm going to do this. So my daughters who are like in the late 20s, and the oldest one's 30 now, but they were so good with her because they were like, oh, I think I'm nervous as well, but I'm going to go for it. And they went up so far and then they came down again. So she went, well, I'm going to do that. So I went up as far as Nikki. I was like, brilliant, well done, that's fantastic. And then she came down. And then she went up again to the next level and then the next level. And by the end, she's at the top. Come on, girls, you can do it. Come on. And it was just
And that's how it should be.
It was 7, I think. I don't know, 7 or 8 at the time. It was lovely. And I think you can tell adults that have been like that have been cautious as children, because
totally.
then it's like they're in their safe little job in the corporate world and they're not happy and they're not enjoying it, but the pay packet's okay. So they are in misery for the whole month just to get that pay packet that makes them feel like it was worth it. And then they're in misery for the next month when they've got all this knowledge and experience that they could actually take and go, well, I might be working and I'm miserable, but for some of the evenings, I'm going to be setting up my business so that eventually I can take the balance and go, well, I'm going to go either part-time or I'm going to give up the job and I can carry on with the business. And it's like, just take that leap, have faith in yourself and have faith in who you are. And that's one of the things I like about Collaboration Global, when people say they've got lovely ideas and ambitions and dreams, and some of them are huge and some of them are just a little bit, and they'll say it out loud, so it's public, so we know about it. And then one of the collaborators was going, and when are you going to do this? And what's your first step?
Good old accountability, eh?
Yeah, exactly. But also, and how can I help? That's what I like about it as well. So if somebody is around to go, oh, come on, let's do this. And it isn't necessarily a huge commitment, but when 3 or 4 people can look after one person, then everyone's taking a little bit of it and making sure that they're getting it done.
But it's also more importantly, it's people asking to help without having a vested interest. It's really nice that people are willing to share their time, their experience without necessarily saying, £50, please. It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So people are asking the right questions, aren't they?
Yes, indeed. And what I'm hoping to nurture into people, which is pretty much evident anyway, but I want it to be known that this is what happens here, is if somebody gives you their skills and their experience and their knowledge for free and you go, oh, thank you very much, that's nice. Well, then do something for them. And that can be a testimonial because you've experienced their stuff, or it can be find them a referral, or it might be, well, I've had that and actually I need to work with you now. Can we work together? So it's kind of, the first instinct should be, how can I help you? But then the other person should be able to reciprocate. It's this kind of, for want of a better expression.
It's not always easy in the same way because people are in such diverse positions and diverse industries. But that's also the beauty of it, because there is that huge expanse of differing experience. Just to ask just the most random things, and it's the people know. The connection. It'd be interesting actually to map out everybody in the community and map out what the people that are connected to them know, because it must be colossal. I mean, it must be colossal.
There must be a bit of software that can do that.
It's called LinkedIn, I think, probably, but you'll never get the proper picture.
Yeah, it's just putting in the members and seeing where that spread comes. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? I like that idea, because this 6 degrees of separation. Well, when I was doing my BNI days, and I used to say to people, always ask for who you want, who's your ideal client, and people were scared to ask their ideal client. But I witnessed it again and again and again when people were brave enough to say, I want to work with, they got the gig. It was amazing. So I've heard people say, I want to work with Jamie Oliver, got the gig. I want to work with what's his name? That rich guy that owned the football team. Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. Yes, that's the one. Thank you. With him, they got the gig. Ollie Murs, they got the gig. The Queen, they got the gig. You know, it's like
Really?
so
I
bizarre.
must send you a list.
I know, but this is
Wow.
it. It was just somebody in the room knows someone that knows someone that. I mean, when this lady stood up, I just literally said to her about be specific who you want. She said, "Well, actually, I like Ollie Murs, but I've no point asking here." She says, "Look, who do they know? There's a dozen business owners. You know." I said, "Just ask." I said, "Is
Yeah, yeah.
he?"
You'd
I
be
didn't know who
surprised.
Ollie Murs was at the time, and I just
They're only
won
human beings, aren't they?
exactly. But she asked, and 3 people went, "Yeah, I can do that." And then when the Roman Abramovich thing came up, this woman asked, and everyone in the room laughed when she asked for him. She was a financial advisor, and everyone in the room laughed. And then out the corner, someone, I could do that. And we went, what? And I didn't know who said it, but she got the gig. Somebody knew him. He was their client, or he worked with him, or done something with him, had a connection. So 6 degrees of separation is rubbish now
Yeah,
because
I
of,
think it's 3 or 4 max.
Facebook. Yeah, indeed. So we are all connected to amazing people. So just imagine the collaborations that could come out of that. And from my mind, taking it from a ground space of, a small community that we've got that's continually is growing now, which is fantastic. But if we hit that tipping point where more and more people know about us, and then more and more people understand the culture and understand how to listen and understand how to connect to themselves and understand who they are, to know what their triggers are when they get angry or upset, to understand that you don't need to be angry and upset, to know what it feels like to live in abundance and share with people and care for people and help people. Now most people are like that naturally, but when it comes to business, there's this little switch that goes on that says you've got to be a capitalist, you've got to look at the bottom line, you've got to look at the profit margin, you've got to look at money. Let's take that out of the equation, because the money comes anyway. Once you're
Yeah.
doing all those other things, it comes. So that's my dream, and my passion is to get a community that have the same values that are going to make a difference to the world. And then if we can just get the big boys to listen, then we've got a chance to tip the balance and make a huge difference in society, which is the whole purpose of us coming together. We have a lovely time. We get to learn about each other. I know if anybody that I know needs a mortgage consultant, you're the first person I'm going to be thinking of to share. This isn't a networking group. This is because I know that you care about your clients. I know that you've done NLP, you've coached the coach approach, all these different things that make you stand out head and shoulders above the competition who are just going through the motions. Now, there are other mortgage consultants out there that would also do similar things to you. And I would imagine if they were in our community, you'd be like, oh, should we work together? Let's see how we can help each other. Because
It's a really weird thought. Sorry, it's a really weird point actually. In the majority of people in financial services see each other as competition, and it's the same in many industries. If they were to enter a room that was networking, they'd basically stay away from each other,
it's
wouldn't
crazy.
they?
It's crazy.
Because they go out and say hello. Because at the end of the day, are we actually all in direct competition? No, we're not. In every industry, we're not.
It's like there are, on LinkedIn alone, there are 615 million people. So I think there's enough to go around.
You can't find a friend there. There's something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, if people wanted to get in touch with you, obviously you're a mortgage consultant. What other products, what other things do you do? Because you said to me earlier about you set up another company recently around coaching. So tell us a bit more about the other stuff that you guys do.
So we have a number of different companies. The mortgage consultancy is Liddle, which is there for the provision of mortgage and protection products. So that does the financial side of things and the practicalities of putting it together, really. We have Hawkhurst Invest, which is set up to source clients' property and help build their portfolios, do cash flow forecasting, and basically hold their hand through the education process of getting involved in property. We have Will Protect, which is an estate planning business. Actually, I should have talked to Ben about that this morning and didn't. And then Identity Resource, which is essentially a coaching business, which is a fledgling thing. But I think the underlying approach to all of them is very much relationship driven, and the way that we deal with our clients. And I think that is a unique point to the way we do things. And it's an incredibly important point, because I think the relationships that we have are are really, really beneficial to everybody.
Well, when you say that you've got returning clients like 15 years later, it kind of stands in good stead, doesn't it? That, you can't have been that bad. It's like they must have met. I mean, there's a lot of mortgage consultants around. That's your main baby, though, isn't it? You look after that bit and you kind of diversify in the rest. So I was talking.
It's a lot of data and detail, and that's enough.
Well, do you know what? That's where your analysis through the biology that you did in the early days is probably where it
100%.
comes up. It's funny, isn't it? How the talents that you have naturally, the genius that you go, well, everyone could do that, and actually they can't, is kind of, you can look back over your life and you can join the dots then, can't you? And go, well, when I was at school, I never would have thought about doing this, but in hindsight, it's the talents that are your natural space. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. I take a scientific approach to problem solving. The only thing I don't do necessarily is explain that approach to somebody. So when I'm flying through a scenario in my head, you won't necessarily know what's going on until I tell you at the end.
Yeah. And I wouldn't.
It's a quick way. Some people do, some people don't. But it's the quickest way to work out where we need to go. To work out, it's just the way that I think. But it enables us to get from A to B much, much, much faster.
You know what? The problem solver in the financial industry is a kind of better tag than I do mortgages. You know what I mean? It kind of makes you. We get.
No, totally. No, totally. I said that to you earlier on. I think is a job title necessarily what we do, and it's not.
No.
I mean, it's not. But you can't. I don't know. I don't know how you'd label it. That's a subject for a session, isn't it?
Yes.
What would you call what I do?
Well, I think the fact that you're a natural problem solver. And then the problem solver, then underneath, within your financial future, something like that. Because that's what people want half the time when they've got property over here and a property over here, and then they've got a mortgage to be got over there, and then where's it all going to come through? And it's like, well, I can tell you how I do it, or I can just do it. What do you want? It's like me doing my maths GCSE. I wasn't very good at maths. It was an O level at the time, and I used to question everything. And in the end, the guy said to me, because I was doing it in, I did it at school, failed miserably, and took it again. And the guy said, "Look, do you want to pass the exam, or do you want to know how to do it?" And I said, "I just want to pass the exam." He said, "Well, don't worry about that bit. Just do this bit. Don't worry about that bit. Just do it." I'm okay. So I did. Got there in the end. So, David, it's been fascinating catching up with you again. I just love your energy around what you do. I love the relationship that you have with your kids, and it's kind of this love for life and your commitment to your good health as well, because of the running and all the going through the extreme sports. I mean, I can imagine you with your daughter and your son going down the old zip wire in Wales. The longest one in the world. So I bet you'd have
That's
a lot.
What I want to do.
I'll bet, yeah. Let me know how it goes. That sounds pretty scary to me. So if somebody wanted to connect up with you, how's the easiest way for them to have a chat?
By email is probably the quickest and simplest. Can you put an email in this link?
We will put an email there as well. But just if people are in a rush and they just want to listen to it and go straight to it, what's your easiest email?
David@liddleperrott.com.
And how do you spell those, Liddle?
So LIDDLEPERRETT.com.
Lovely.
Dead easy.
Thank you. And presumably they can find you on LinkedIn as well if they want to.
Yeah, easily.
Or check out the Collaboration Global Facebook group as well, and you're in there. Alternatively, if you would like to meet David, you are more than welcome to come to Collaboration Global's meeting. There's always one on the 4th Tuesday of the month, it's the last Tuesday of the month, beg your pardon, the last Tuesday of the month, apart from December. But yeah, you're welcome to come as a guest. So you can go onto the website collaborationglobal.org, find out all about us and click the link to join the meeting, or you can go on to Eventbrite and search for Collaboration Global, and you'll find all the meetings listed there as well. And if you want to contact me directly, it's Jill@collaborationglobal.org. that just leaves me to say thank you so much, with your beautiful background that I've enjoyed looking at, because I love a bit of the ocean, and lovely stories, David. And it really just makes me feel really proud to think that you are excited about the future, understanding the commitment around what we're trying to achieve in Collaboration Global, and you're just one of our best members. So thank you so much for being part of this community. Really grateful.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. See you soon. Take care.